Welcome to Storytime. Today I'm going to tell you an Okanagan story about our trickster Coyote and how he juggles his eyes. Pay attention to how he treats people and how people treat him because of it. As he was walking through the timber one morning, Coyote heard someone say, "I throw you up and you come down in." Coyote thought that was strange talk. It made him curious. He wanted to learn who was saying that and why. He followed the sound of the voice, and he came upon a little chickadee who was throwing his eyes in the air and catching them in his eye sockets. When he saw Coyote peering out at him from behind a tree, Chickadee ran. He was afraid of Coyote. Coyote thought he could juggle his eyes just as easily as Chickadee juggled his, so he tried. He took out his eyes and tossed them up and repeated the words used by the little chickadee. "I throw you up and you come down in." His eyes plopped back to where they belonged. That was fun. He juggled his eyes again and again and again. Two ravens happened to fly that way. They saw what Coyote was doing, and one of them said, "Coyote is mocking someone. Let's steal his eyes and take them to the sun dance. Perhaps then we can find out his medicine power." As Coyote tossed his eyes the next time, the ravens swooped, swift as arrows from a strong bow. One of them snatched one eye, and the other raven snatched the other. "Quack, quack, quack!" They laughed and flew away to the Sundance camp. Oh, Coyote was mad. He was crazy with rage. When he could hear that the ravens were laughing no longer, he started in the direction they had gone. He hoped somehow to catch them and get back his eyes. He bumped into trees and bushes and fell into holes and gullies and banged his head against boulders. He soon was bruised all over, but he kept going, stumbling along. He heard someone laughing. It was Bluebird. She was with her sister, Bluejay. "Look, sister," said Bluebird. "There's Coyote pretending to be blind. Isn't he funny? Don't pay any attention to him. He's full of mean tricks. He's bad." Coyote purposefully bumped into a tree and rolled over towards the voices. That made little Bluebird stop her laughing. She felt just a little bit afraid. "Come, little girl," Coyote called. "Come see the pretty star I see." Bluebird naturally was very curious, and she wanted to see the pretty star, but she hung back, and her sister warned her not to pay attention to Coyote. But Coyote used coaxing words, told her how bright the star looked. "Where's the star?" asked Bluebird, hopping a few steps towards Coyote. "I cannot show you while you are so far away," he replied. "See where I'm pointing my finger?" Bluebird hopped close, and Coyote made one quick bound and caught her. He yanked out her eyes and threw them into the air, saying, "I'll throw you up and you come down in." And the eyes fell into his eye sockets. Coyote could see again, and his heart was glad. "When did you ever see a star in the sunlight?" he asked Bluebird, and then ran off in the timber. Bluebird cried, and Bluejay scolded her for being so foolish to trust Coyote. Bluejay took 2 berries that she had just picked and put them in her sister's eye sockets, and Bluebird could see as well as before. But as the berries were small, her new eyes were too small too. That's why Bluebird has such berry-like eyes. While his new eyes were better than none at all, Coyote was not satisfied. They were too little. They did not fit very well into his slant sockets, so he kept hunting for the ravens and the Sundance. One day he came upon a small teepee. He heard someone inside pounding meat and berries in a stone mortar. The old woman was Pheasant. Coyote asked her if she lived alone. "No," she said. "I have 2 granddaughters. They are away at Sundance with Coyote's eyes." "Aren't you afraid to be here alone?" Coyote asked. "Isn't there anything that you fear?" "I am afraid of nothing but the stinging bush," she said. Laughing to himself, Coyote went to find a stinging bush. In a swamp not far away, he found several bushes of that kind. He broke off one of those nettle bushes and carried it back to the teepee. Seeing it, Pheasant cried, "Do not touch me with that! Do not touch me! It will kill me!" But Coyote had no mercy in his heart, no pity. He whipped poor Pheasant until she died. Then with his knife he skinned her and dressed himself in her skin. He looked almost exactly like the old woman. He hid her body and began to pound meat in the stone mortar. He was doing that when the granddaughters came home. They were laughing. They told how they danced over Coyote's eyes, but they did not recognize Coyote in his grandmother's skin. But Coyote knew them. One was little Bluebird and the other was Bluejay. Coyote smiled. "Take me with you to the Sundance, granddaughters," he said in his best old woman's voice. "Grandmother, how strange you talk," said Bluebird. "That's because I burned my mouth with hot soup," said Coyote. "And grandmother, how odd your eyes look," Bluejay exclaimed. "One eye is longer than the other." "My grandchild, I hurt that eye with my cane," explained Coyote. The sisters did not find anything else wrong with their grandmother, and the next morning the three of them started for the Sundance. The sisters had to carry their supposed grandmother. They took turns. They had gone part way when Coyote wouldn't stop moving and almost caused Bluejay to fall. That made Bluejay angry, and she threw Coyote to the ground. Bluebird then picked him up and carried him. As they reached the edge of the Sundance camp, Coyote again was very squirmy, and Bluebird let him fall. Many of the people in the camp saw that happen. They thought the sisters were cruel, and the women scolded Bluebird and Bluejay for treating such an old person so badly. Some of the people came over and lifted Coyote to his feet and helped him into the Sundance Lodge. There the people were dancing over Coyote's eyes, and the medicine men were passing the eyes to one another and holding the eyes up high for everyone to see. After a little, Coyote asked to hold the eyes, and they were handed to him. He ran out of the lodge, threw his eyes into the air, and said, "I throw you up, and you come down in." His eyes returned to their places, and Coyote ran to the top of a hill. Bluejay and Bluebird were full of shame. They went home carrying Pheasant's skin, which Coyote had thrown aside. They searched and found their grandmother's body and put it back in the skin, and Pheasant's life was restored. She told them how Coyote had killed her with the stinging bush.